Welcome. You've splash landed into this Prosecco-laden podcast, straight into the woo-woo pool with the crew of Ohm-g. We're just a simple group of tragically imperfect and highly empathic BFFs, exploring a wide range of atypical topics with humor, grace, and curiosity. This is Ohm-g.
Welcome back to the crew of Ohm-g, the podcast. Today we have the wonderful Meaghan Alton with us. I'm so excited. I actually met Meaghan last year at this time, a little back in February of last year, when she did a guest appearance on a podcast that I was working for at that time. And I actually got the pleasure of interviewing her and just fell in love with her take on numerology. She is a numerologist and a business strategist, and then calls herself an intuitive numerologist, which I found very interesting.
Woo.
Currently, she helps teachers and leaders feel energetically supported in the work that is meaningful and purposefully aligned to their unique energetic codes. She teaches that numbers are one method that we can use to understand the language of energy all around us, and teaches others to do the same through her course, Practical Numerology, and her certifications, which I'm currently taking. Yay!
Ooh, we can't wait to get read.
And loving. Oh, and by the way, Meaghan, so I'm on the way here this morning and looked down at my odometer, and the last four digits of my odometer are 4321. And I thought, oh, we're counting down to something awesome. So no pressure. But yeah, so welcome. We're so excited to have you.
Oh,
She's here with the crew.
Thank you so much. Aw.
So first of all, tell us a little bit about how you got into numerology. I know the story, but it's so interesting starting out kind of like more in an analytical field and finding the thing which we're all about learning. So tell us a little bit about your journey to numerology.
Yeah, I was never one of those people who knew I was intuitive. I had no idea. I didn't even probably know what intuition was if you would have asked me. And growing up, I had this obsession with numbers, math, and money. I was like, I looked around the world and I was like, people who have money have choices. So I want to figure out how money and business works. I want to figure out how the economy works. And that way I'll have choices. Is kind of how I looked at it. So I went and did a business degree and a master's degree in economics. And I was working for the Alberta provincial government doing economic forecasting, which is basically looking at like massive spreadsheets of data to predict revenue, right? So I'd be looking at what was happening in the economy to try to figure out what kind of revenue the government would have for their budget. And so it was very analytical, very math-based. And when I got pregnant with my eldest, my first child, who I have 3 now, and she's now 15. But when I got pregnant with her, I started kind of knowing things. And I was like, where is this coming from? How am I knowing stuff that I've not read in a book and nobody has told me? What is happening here? And I would have these feelings about things, and then I'd go and do the research. And sure enough, my feelings were kind of on point. And so looking back, I realized, becoming pregnant with my daughter was one of my spiritual awakening moments. And a couple of years later, I was getting a numerology reading from a dear friend of mine. We'd met at a business networking group, and she was a numerologist. And of course, I'm fascinated because I'm like, I love numbers, and I'm on my spiritual awakening journey and all of this. And I'm working as a business coach at the time. But when she did my numerology chart, it was shocking to me how accurate it was. And she looked at the numbers and she says to me, oh, you're sensitive, aren't you? And I'm like, oh yeah, like I'm trying to work on that. It's been a problem my whole life. And she's like, no, this is your gift.
Oh.
And I was shocked. I couldn't even believe it. I was like, wait, you mean the thing I've been avoiding, denying, and dismissing and minimizing my entire life is actually a gift? And I wanted to brush that off, but it was one of those things that I couldn't let it go. And so I just started kind of delving into it to understand it more. And it just opened up so many pathways for me. So I was like, I have to learn this modality. And oh gosh, that was probably 12 years ago now. And I haven't looked back since.
I think what you said about you becoming more not sensitive, but more intuitive with pregnancy says no woman ever. No, I'm just kidding.
Right?
That's the beginning of a journey right there.
Yeah.
Motherhood and pregnancy. And I'm having problems with words too, Chandra.
Freaking Mercury.
I know. So anyway, that's very interesting. It's funny because like my whole childhood and growing up years, I was like, 7 is my lucky number. Like who picks out a number as their lucky number? But ever since I was a kid, I've always remembered saying that. And it turns out like my numerology is the number 7.
Of course.
And I had no idea until, I was much later in life.
Yeah, because you had a resonance with that energy. So it makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, it was very interesting. And I don't know that much about numerology. So please share with us like how we find out about our numerology. And
your course is so aptly named of practical numerology, because that's what attracted me to you, is you have this kind of like no nonsense baseline of just like, the number is the number and here's what it means. And here's the flow of one number to the next number. And it highly resonates with me. And I feel like it makes so much sense. It's like a way that you've kind of intuitively felt numbers your whole life, but no one's ever put it into words the way you do. Yeah. So I would love for you just to kind of like walk through your own personal architecture around the numbers and the way they work with each other.
Yeah. Well, and I appreciate you saying that, because so many people over the years have come to me saying, well, I'm bad at math, or numbers have never made sense with me, or I'm bad with numbers, right? Mm-hmm. And we have this like internal shame that we carry if, in grade school, we didn't get the good grades in math, or someone said, oh, you're bad at numbers. And we internalize that and take that on. But what I've come to understand over the years of doing this is it's partly, I would imagine, because as children, we are very open vessels and we can sense the energy, and we don't yet have the filters that adults tend to put on things, right? And so as a child, if you're being told that numbers must fit into a very strict structured container, and yet you feel the energy attached to the number, it's going to create cognitive dissonance and confusion. And then you're dismissed for asking those questions that probably your math teacher had no idea what you were talking about, but you felt something beyond just the equation on the page. And so then you would internalize that as, I'm bad at numbers. But really, it's that you were only being shown half of the equation, and the other half being the energetic piece that you were taught to dismiss, whereas both are important, right? We need both. So I think if someone has a tricky relationship with numbers, coming into numerology can be so healing, because we can see how numbers contain more properties than just the black and white fit in a box type conditioning that we receive from school. So I always want to kind of preface that by saying that. And to me, when I look at numbers, there's sort of 3 main ways we can work with them. Number 1, there's the energy that you were born with. So this is the day you were born, the day you incarnated. It's the day you chose to take on physical form. And the energy of that day gets imprinted within your soul, and you carry it with you forever, right? And this would be your birth chart in numerology, your birth chart in astrology, and any other modality you look at, right? And so that energy you carry with you forever. And, as Chandra said, one of the things I love about it is there are properties of numbers. So I'm not making it up. Like, there is a formula, there is a calculation, and it really helps people who will question their intuition, which is all of us, by the way. We all question it. But it helps to know, like, there's this framework and this structure, and that creates a sense of safety for your intuition and your inner mind, your mind's eye, to kind of color in the lines of that container. So for anyone listening, you guys can try this right now. You just take all the digits of your birthday, so the month, the day, the year, and you split them all out. So you'll end up with like 2 digits for the month, 2 digits for the day, 4 digits for the year, and you add them all up. And chances are, if you're born in like 19 something or other, when you add them all up, you're going to get a big number. So when I do that, I get 25. And if your number is greater than 11, you would add it again. So for me, 2 plus 5 is a 7. I'm a ruling number 7. And that gives you like the first piece to look at, which is kind of like your sun sign in astrology.
Well, I've raised my hand. I don't know if y'all can see me. I already have mine added up because I know just enough about numerology to be dangerous.
Same.
But I do have a little simple numerology book. So like they say the life number is the birthday number, and I'm a number 5, just so y'all know. But also I just want to throw this in real quick because I've been sitting back here adding. All of the places that I've ever lived that I can remember, the address always breaks down to either a number 2 or a number 9.
Ooh.
How weird is that?
Interesting.
I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 6 addresses listed. 4 of them are number 2s and the other 2s are number 9s.
Fascinating. This is like another aspect. So the one aspect being your birthday, and you can look at the digits within your birthday too. You know, some people have multiples of different numbers. The numbers will have different relationships within them. And that's something we delve into with influences. And then there's what you're talking about, which I would really look at that as how I'm engaging with the universe, or this concept of a two-way conversation with the universe, where it's like we see number patterns, like Chandra was saying, on her vehicle, on the odometer, or on a receipt, or on a license plate in front of you, or wherever, addresses. But the thing is, especially with an address, it's like you're immersing yourself in that energy because it's where you're living. So it's like choosing a city to live in or choosing a climate to live in. And so the 2 energy is this very connected, intuitive energy. It's about strengthening partnerships, but also strengthening partnerships with your relationship with spirit. So 2 can be intuition, and it can also be connecting with the people around us. And of course, every number, well, I say of course, but the way I look at it, every number has polarity to it. Every number runs on a band of energy. There's always going to be an opportunity side, and there's always going to be a challenge side. And oftentimes people might think the challenge is a problem, or it's like I'm doing it wrong, or this is a sign that I'm off course or something. And certainly that can be something, but really what I tend to see more often is the challenge side is actually a strengthening of a gift. And when you can work with the challenge and understand it's birthing in you the other side of the spectrum of the energy. So let's use 2 for an example. The challenge of the 2 would be black and white thinking or divisive energy, right? And it's like black and white thinking and divisive energy is birthing the ability to create a strong partnership through learning how to have good communication, or learning how to select resonant partners to have good communication with. And if a person never experiences that divisive energy, they will never be birthed into a stronger communicator, to be birthed into really valuing having those good connections in their life. And so in that sense, even though at the time it might feel awful, it's like, wow, what is this creating for me?
I like that. It sounds a little bit like the planet Saturn in astrology. The great teacher, you might struggle to grow, but you need this and you signed up for this. So yeah, I like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and it's like, I'd love to imagine that we can all live a life where we don't experience any challenge. I've yet to have a client come across my, my desk where that's been their reality. And it's certainly not my reality. But I think to myself, but our souls came here to learn things. And we don't learn when everything is sunshine and rainbows. We learn when we strengthen ourselves through a challenge. Just like when you go to the gym, you strengthen your muscle group by tearing it, by doing weightlifting, right? And I think we can get overly entangled in the pain of it, of course, as humans. But then sometimes, and this is what numerology has done for me, is it's helped lift above that and see the framework and the perspective so I can understand why the challenge is occurring. And rather than resisting it or fighting against it, I can just say, okay, I'm going to walk through this rather than trying to like grit my teeth and fight it all day long.
So I have a question about numerology and how do you, like, if someone came and got a reading from you, what would you cover and how do you work with numerology in your day-to-day life? I mean, I would assume it's something similar to astrology. Maybe the two go hand in hand, but specifically with numerology, how does that help you on your life path?
Yeah, well, so depending on the person's, like they come with questions usually, right? Like someone's like, I want a reading for a particular reason. So I will go into their birth chart to see like, what are your gifts? What are your strengths? What are the things that might be challenging you because they're trying to develop a certain trait in you? And then of course, if they're like, oh, I'm struggling with business or I'm struggling with whatever, then I can see where the gifts are in their chart and how they can strengthen them. So that's one way. The other thing that I really love about numerology, and I think this is I would say if I had kind of a niche within numerology, it would be forecasting. And so forecasting to me is looking at how the energy is going to be unfolding over time. So when people come with a goal of, I want to hit a certain income goal, or I want to create, I always say business things because most of the time when clients come to me, it's with business related questions or branding or marketing related questions. And so it's like they have this goal, and then I can look at the energy that's unfolding for them and say how they can best work with that. And in numerology, we can get quite specific, right? We can look down to the day, to the week, to the month. And there is a type of advanced numerology I teach as well that interlays the relationship with the planets. It's not the same as astrology. I would call it astronumerology, but the planets have an influence as well as the numbers in terms of they govern different timelines within a given week or within a given year. And it's all unique to the day you were born. And so this is one of the places where I tend to get my repeat clients coming back is they'll say, okay, I'm in the middle of launching something, or I want to do a presentation, or I have an important pitch or proposal to do. Help me figure out when is the auspicious time to do it? What is the energy that's happening around it so I can work with that energy? And of course, if they have dates related to the client they're working with, we can factor that in as well. There's lots of different sort of layers we can bring in.
So I have a question regarding, like, say I'm a 7. That's like my number or whatever.
You are so a 7. You
Girl. This is a 9 year. So does your number interact with the years?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So it was similar to the other question about the address, right? So when you're in, that's a type of forecasting, looking at the year energy. So the year energy is this energy we're all immersed in for a year. And 9 is this energy of shedding, reviewing, completions, the end of certain cycles. I kind of look at the 9, especially this year, as being in a void. It's kind of like we're in the cocoon. We're not entirely sure how we're going to emerge or what we're going to emerge to be like, but we all know we need to go inwards. And there's a lot of stuff that's happening externally that we need to kind of release, not get entangled in, and focus on our core essence. And this is the energy of the 9. And so when you have your own birth chart overlaid into that, it's going to say to you, what about your 7 is what you want to carry forward into your next manifestation cycle? And what about your 7 habits, patterns, whatever, are you ready to release and move beyond? And so that's what the 9 is going to ask of you. And then, same with the lady who was a 5, same with Chandra, who's an 11. Every energy, it's asking, how do I shed what's not me? It maybe was me for a time, and now it's ready to be released because I'm going to be reborn into a new cycle in 2026, which will be a 1 energy year. So it's like there's this kind of detox cleansing type energy.
That's really interesting because I've got my fiance's son is getting married this year. My daughter's getting married this year, and I'm getting married this year.
Wow.
And I live in a 9 house as well. Very interesting. Never thought about it in those terms before.
The other thing that's really cool, I think, about getting married in a 9 energy year, which a lot of people probably wouldn't be most numerologists' like first inclination. But the thing I will say is the incredible energy about 9 is it has high standards. It is and it's following its own light. So the association would be the Hermit and Tarot. If you know Tarot, the Hermit is standing on the mountaintop with its own lantern, knowing it's going to follow the light of its own heart first and foremost. And so in some ways, it's actually a beautiful energy to get married in because now your union is represented by high standards and choosing to follow your own light versus overly being influenced by the external world within your marriage.
Just knowing a little bit about your journey, your particular journey, Brenda, I can see how moving into that next phase of your relationship is very much an old cycle closing for you.
Yeah.
It's the ending of this phase and getting ready to be the beginning of the new. So I love that for you. I'm going to get teary.
Oh, thanks.
I have a question.
Yes.
You just mentioned that Chandra is a number 11. I thought with numerology, you had to keep adding until it came down to a single digit number. That's not correct.
No. Well, and this is up for debate amongst numerologists. So
Okay.
Girl, don't take my 11 from me.
I would have thought you were a 2 based on 1 + 1, but please go ahead.
Yes. Well, so the 2 and the 11 are not substantially different. They carry a lot of similar traits. So if you interpret someone who's an 11 as a 2, you're not wrong per se. But when you look at, I don't look at 1. Some numerologists will look at 1 for personality or birth chart. I will not. I'll look at it for forecasting, but 1 to me is not a complete enough energy for an individual to carry in life for 70, 80, 90 years, right? So I look at them as a 10 because 10 and 1 are very, very similar, but the 10 is the innovator. So it takes the new idea and it's rolling it forward. So 10 would be more associated with the wheel of, because when you think of an energy of a human, it's like, well, it's not just one new idea forever, because then eventually it's not a new idea anymore. Whereas the 10, it's like one new idea, initiation, activation, amplification, innovation, right? And then again, it's like the new bit, amplification of that, activation of that, and then shifting it forward again. So that's how I look at 10s. And then same with the 11. Both the 10 and the 11 have this sort of higher level of, I'm going to say, spiritual accountability. This is something where people can say yes and no to. It's not something that's necessarily put upon you. However, I will say that most of the time when I read for 11s, they have been recognized as having an intuition their entire life, whether they knew the words for it or not. They had, whether it was invisible friends or they talked to angels, or maybe their family did have words for it and they knew they were able to have guides or channel or whatever that was. So they're super, super tapped in to energy on one way, shape, or form. Whereas the 2 may or may not have that to the same degree. I mean, any number can have it, but I find with 11, there's even stronger amplification of it. And I would say that when I look at 11, to me, this is the spiritual visionary type card. Well, so the 2 represents intuition, right? So intuition with spirit, partnership, the universe, and then energy. And then they have like a bit of an accountability to carry that. Whereas someone who's strictly a 2, like let's say their birthday added up to 20, so that makes them a 2, they can have that if they choose, but they can also lean more into the partnership aspect of 2 with other humans and bridging problems and solutions and connection and all that. So there's just a slight nuance that the 11 brings in that I think is pretty special, especially in our line of work.
Well, check, because when I was little, I was too sensitive and I talked to Sasquatch. So,
and I'm going to where Sasquatch lives this afternoon.
Girl, I wore my Bigfoot t-shirt for you today, just in like solidarity, because I'm so wanting you to have an experience that you can come and tell me about.
Absolutely.
Hey, that'll be another reason to come on the podcast. We can talk about Sasquatch again.
Right?
Again. Because we only talk about him every other episode. But,
So I have a question. What if Sasquatch were, say, a number 4? What would you advise a number 4 for this coming year?
I love it. Well, the number 4 is the builder and the leader. So they carry this benevolent leadership energy where they desire to build structures and foundations to support this vision that they have of what the leadership is. The 4 in tarot, I always like to bring in the tarot reference when I know people probably have some familiarity with it, because especially when you're looking at the more of the traditional tarot decks, it is reflective. So the 4 is the emperor, right? So caring very deeply about their community, wanting to make sure everyone is good and safe and taken care of, wanting to make sure there's structures and foundations for people to feel they can land on. And my business bestie is a 4. And I just love having a business bestie as a 4 because she is so good at being organized and seeing a plan and having all the pieces come together and mapping it all out. Whereas a 7, I am much more fly by the seat of my pants. Like I can wing it with the best of them. I build the plane as I fly it. Like don't ask me to come up with a 12-month plan because that makes me want to die.
Yes,
but
queen.
4s are brilliant at it, right? Exactly. You get it. So 4s are good at that. And it serves them to have these building pieces in it. So whether it's like building community, building family, building a business, it doesn't matter what, but they have this idea that they're moving towards. So with the 9, there's going to be some factors. And this, I would want to see the rest of your chart because what your personal year you're in will play a role.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, we can say with the 9, it's like, have you put foundations in place that maybe served for a time, but they're ready to be tweaked, adjusted, and rebuilt going forward?
Cool. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay. Does anybody have any other questions?
So tell us about how people get in touch with you and what your sessions are like. Do you do them in person or you do them virtually? Both? And the classes. You teach classes as well?
Yes, I do. So I do one-on-one readings, and most of my clients aren't local. So I usually do them on Zoom. But even for clients who are local, I love AI. AI and I are besties. So oftentimes what I'll do when I do someone's reading is we'll meet over Zoom, I'll record it, and I've trained an AI bot to turn my forecast into a report for them. Mm-hmm. So it just kind of gives them that sort of piece of paper that they can put with their calendar and take it forward, right? So both, but I actually love online in that sense. Although sitting down with a cup of tea with someone's really nice too, right? It's just that sense of connection. So yeah, most of the time people come with a specific question, or sometimes it's like it's their birthday and they just want a birthday reading. I love doing birthday readings because in numerology, your year starts on your birthday. So it makes sense to do a birthday reading to figure out what that year is going to be for you. And then I also teach numerology through the practical numerology certification, as Chandra was mentioning. And I teach business as well, where I use numerology to create business plans for my clients. And then we spend 6 months together implementing them, whether it's in a private client or I have small business groups that we do this together as a group as well, which is super fun.
That's really interesting. Wouldn't have thought of using that while trying to create a business, or that people would be enlightened enough to even look for that.
Well, and I don't think the average person is, but right. When people hear it, it's usually fascinating because especially with the advanced numerology, you can look at soul agreements and soul contracts. And we all have soul agreements with our ideal clients. And we all have particular energy we carry that's part of what we're meant to contribute. So I would call that like your medicine. And when you look at your client's energy as like an avatar, you can figure out what it is they seek from you. And so when you build that into your business plan, it actually really helps with communication and marketing positioning. And then obviously, if someone knows numerology, they can look at their individual clients as well, which is why I teach through like practical numerology and things like that. But even if you don't know numerology, even me just looking at your numerology chart and saying, here's the energy that you're meant to contribute. So how can we wrap this into your niche and your marketing and your communication and how you provide your services? Because that's what people are seeking from you on the energetic level. And then your client, this is what they're struggling with. This is what their deepest desires are. This is what their greatest hopes and fears are. So whether you're providing work on like the energetic or spiritual level, or whether you're like, I'm a hairdresser, I'm a bookstore owner, I'm a construction worker, it doesn't really matter because your client's hopes and fears are driving their decision-making anyways. And so speaking to that can actually make it so that they're more fulfilled with the results you give them, which is ultimately the goal, right? Is the happy client and having those clients that we most enjoy working with.
Well, and I feel like looking at it and approaching it from that level, especially in entrepreneurship, there's so much that you come up against that creates restriction, right? Mm-hmm. That everything is going to be new at some point. Everything's going to be scary at some point. But just being able to kind of know those nuances ahead of time can take some of that restriction away from it because you're already speaking in such an authentic voice, speaking from your own codes out toward the person who you know is already looking for you. It decreases some of that fear that is inherent in the whole like entrepreneurial process. Absolutely.
And you're so right. Like it's such an uphill battle for everyone. It's like where we can create some openings, it makes life easier.
So I assume you use this in your life, right? For like business, for your own business. And then with how you relate with your friends as well. Do you also look at their numerology and be like, how do we work together? And what are our challenges together as friends?
Absolutely. So I use it in my parenting. Each of my 3 children has different birth charts. And so the way I parent them is different. I use it in most of my friends. It's so funny because, as you ladies know, like the more we're in this world, the more it's like that's all we're surrounded with. So one of my best friends is an Ayurvedic health coach, and she's very intuitive. And I have other best friends who are energy workers, and it's incredible. So oftentimes when we're hanging out, we're doing readings, doing charts for each other. You know, it's like
it just happens.
I look at my life and I'm like, is this my life? I'm so blessed.
It's your love language.
It is.
Well, that's why we have the camera set where we do, because if you were to pan down, you'd see like the 18 decks of cards that are like in this room somewhere.
Dogs, everything.
Everything.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
All right, Meaghan. Well, we have loved having and look forward to having you again, wink, wink. But I've loved having you today, giving us an introduction to numerology. And we'll make sure we'll give everyone ways to connect with you moving forward if they have any more questions or would like to get a reading.
Thank
and
you.
I think I'm going to have to go online and get myself a reading because I'm real curious now.
Yeah.
It does. I know for myself, I started to see patterns everywhere within myself. Like once I knew my number for this and my number for that, I'm like, oh my God. Like that makes so much sense now. And starting to see how the things fit together and where I have challenges, how they have like kind of like overarched other things in my life. And it's been very eye-opening. I'm going to say that.
And that's what we all do. We seek to understand ourselves so that we can relate better in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Mm.
All right.
Absolutely.
Are you on the social medias?
I am a very active Instagram user. So you come find me on Instagram. It's Meaghan Intuitive Strategist, and it's MEAGHAN. And I'm on Facebook, and I have YouTube where I do my forecasting every month. So if you're curious about the energy of the month ahead, I'll always do a forecast for the month ahead. And I've been doing it for years at this stage now, which is super fun to kind of go back and see how that's unfolded over the years.
We'll make sure we'll give everyone your handle so they can come and follow you wherever you are.
Thank you. It's been wonderful talking with you ladies. You guys are just a riot. I love it.
And have fun on your trip. Enjoy that. And we will catch up with you later.
Thank you so much,
Sounds
Meaghan.
good.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you for joining us today. Please follow and subscribe to our podcast on Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, and leave a review. It's so easy to do and such a huge help for us. We appreciate your interactions so much. Want to join us at our table? Make sure to check out our YouTube channel and join our Facebook community. If you've enjoyed this content and wish to support us, take a look at our Patreon page. All information and links will be in our podcast description. Catch you next time.
This podcast is part of the Sound Advice FM network. Sound Advice FM. Women's voices amplified.